You made it to level 2, deeper questions leading to deeper answers. I'm Tomas Garza, and I'm here to help you decide to transform. I'll be setting the pace for the process to support your unfolding. Learn and commit to a practice that brings simplicity and then awareness of what is ready to be released. Join me now and allow the experience of a deeper sense of love. Welcome, everyone, to Decide to Transform and two very special episodes today with executive contributor and master spiritual teacher, GP Walsh. GP joins us every month for not one, but two shows here on Decide to Transform, and I'm excited for what we've got in store for you today. We're going to start off today talking about GP's own creation and course, the 4 amazing powers of creation. In fact, your 4 amazing powers of creation. And this is something that is going on right now, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the origins of it and what this actually looks like in your lifetime. So, GP, welcome again. Thank you for joining me.
Hey, Tomas. It's so good to be here. I look forward to this every month.
These are a lot of fun. And guys out there listening, they are fun. There are no rules here.
Yes.
If it appears there's structure, then, well,
it's an illusion.
It is. It's completely illusory because we have literally just sat down and started talking and cool things have come up.
Yep.
Very cool. But today, with a little bit of structure, the 4 amazing powers of creation. So, GP, tell us a little bit about what this is and what it involves here.
Well, for the longest time, ever since I've been studying spirituality, which is, well, sometime this summer, it'll be 50 years. 50 years ago, I had that spiritual experience that kind of shifted everything for me. And what shifted was perception. And one of the key elements of spiritual inquiry is coming to terms with what is real and what is your perception. Because we are bounded by our perception. We don't experience reality, we experience perception. Now, that the phrase that's become very popular, "you create your reality," it's really quite a misnomer. It's misleading, and it keeps people from discovering what the truth is, because the reality is what's true. It's what is, right? And that's not something that just kind of, is not subject to whim. Right? You don't create 2 + 2 = 4. It just does, right? And so we want to harmonize with reality, but our experience is completely driven by our perception. So what creates perception is of utter importance if you're going to be on the spiritual path. It's important, if it's a personal development path, people learn that my reaction to things is what creates my sense of suffering or well-being, and not necessarily the thing itself. Just seeing that is so liberating, right? Because otherwise I'm a slave to circumstance. I'm forever trying to control circumstances. But if I realize it's not so much the thing that happened, but my reaction to the thing that happened, all of a sudden, I'm walking in a completely different territory. And I've just noticed, probably over the last 20 or 30 years, it's really kind of grown in understanding. Is you even hear people talking about, well, that your story about things. But people don't realize exactly how deeply that runs. That it literally is your perception that creates your experience. You can't experience anything outside of your perception. So I had to find a way of breaking down what actually constitutes perception. What makes the world you're looking at, right? We think we're looking at the world as it is, and in fact, we're only looking at our perception of it. The world as it is. I mean, first off, all the information we have is what we've garnered through our senses. which experience an infinitesimal fraction of the total amount of information that is surrounding us at all times.
Yeah.
With our scientific instruments, we've begun to expand the realm of that realm of what we can experience, the information we can take in. But even those instruments are always reducing more subtle energies and the like down to within the framework of these five senses, right? And so these five senses then dictate, and they start with a fraction of reality, right? So we're starting with a tidbit, right? And we're trying to determine the nature of the universe based on this tidbit. It's like, when biblical scholars, they talk about the translation of and people arguing about the Bible said, and you realize that it's been extrapolated out of fragments, these tiny little fragments, the vast majority of which is missing. But through the study of archaeology and all these different things, they've been able to piece together what they believe was being said.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So it's like, what was actually said? Nobody knows. Right. We have some clues at best. And then when you add on top of it that, as I love to point this out, the human nervous system, which is receiving a fraction of the total amount of information, receives about 60 billion bits of information a second. It is a constant flow of information, right? Now, your cognitive mind, the part we are so proud of, it can process 60 bits of information a second. Mm-hmm. Which means that if all the information your body is actually receiving hit your cognitive mind, there would just be a mass of brains all over the wall. You could not handle it. So where does the other 59 billion, 999 million, 999,940 bits go? And the whole nervous system has layer upon layer upon layer about filters and stuff. I mean, at the lowest level, it's like, is it dangerous?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Boom. It just takes you won't even see it. Your body is running before you're even aware that the danger is there. You're the last to know. In that particular circumstance. So, if we can just start with the healthy notion that what I think the world is, it isn't. Mm-hmm. I'm really off to a great start. As you know, I've been studying Buddhism. That's the great doubt.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't really know, right? I don't have a clue, really. I've got a tiny little bit of information. And this cognitive part is pretty amazing that it can extrapolate and abstract and come up with, what's a workable model anyway. Right. But is it reality? Absolutely not. So understanding the nature of perception itself is just essential to a genuine self-inquiry, to inquiring into any heart that really wants to know what reality is, know the truth, has got to confront this. And I say that about all the information, because from that point of view, knowing what reality is impossible. But there's another aspect of this that I've discovered, that the spiritual aspect of it is that it is possible, but not through that mechanism.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Say some more about that. It's possible, but not through that mechanism. Yeah.
Yes. To take a look at I love doing this show because I'm allowed to speak it on this level.
You most certainly are, and we love it. Thank you.
It's so gratifying. Human knowledge is based on basically drawing generalizations and conclusions based on what information that it has, and human knowledge has evolved over time. But it's basically it was kind of codified by the Greeks into what's called classical analysis, right? Which is what our scientific method is.
Yeah.
And that is you know something by deconstructing it into its most fundamental parts, And out of those fundamental parts, you put it back together, you know what the thing is.
Mhm.
And so for the last 3,000 years, that's been the model by which we've assumed things to be. And looking at that, you have to be confronted by the incredible weakness and the incredible limitations of perception, which is what we just illustrated. I mean, a fraction.
Right.
Our minds are capable of dealing with but a fraction of what's actually happening. Which would mean, from the point of view of the mind, the best it can do is build some useful models that we can all agree on, right?
Yeah.
Like stopping at a red light. It's a good idea.
It's beautiful.
It's
in fact.
but there's nothing that says red means stop. We decided that's what it's going to mean. We agreed on it as a convention. It helps us keep from ramming into each other. And so, yeah, we all say, okay, we're going to do that. We don't go around killing each other and stuff like. We've made some agreements, right? But they're not truth. They're useful conventions, and so that's as good as we've gotten about understanding the actual nature of things. Now, there's an amazing phenomena that there's a completely different approach to knowledge that is not classical analysis. It is not the subject-object relationship. It is not deconstructionist.
Right.
It is not objective, right? It's not the scientific model at all. And it's been around in India for 10,000 years, and it's called Advaita Vedanta, and it goes all the way back to the Vedas. And it starts from a completely different premise. And that premise is that consciousness, that which is conscious of things, is the origin of things.
Mm-hmm.
Scientific model, consciousness is a result of some material processes. They refer to it as an emergent property of the complexity of matter. In other words, they don't have a clue. Somehow out of this massive stuff came the thought, a self-awareness, sentience, inexplicable, right? Because there's no structure. They can identify no structure. They assume there's a structure somewhere up there, right? But nobody's been able to identify it. And we find this fleshy little thing. Is it the whole thing? Is it a part of it? We take a little off, see if it's still there. I mean, whenever you're looking at something structurally, right, you're in the realm of deconstruct. You're breaking it down to find out, okay, where's the conscious part?
Yeah.
Right? My eye isn't seeing. My eye's collecting light. I am seeing. That point of cognition is not the ear. It's not the skin. It's, the skin doesn't feel in the sense of recognizing I've been touched, right? It's simply collecting sensory impulses, right? Something else is there, right? Now, what is that something else? So to me, the nature of reality is, what is the nature of consciousness? Because without knowing that, I can't know anything else. And I can assume that, well, it's just kind of a structure of matter, which is very nihilistic, right? Right. I mean, it means life has no meaning, right? Get used to it, kid. You're born, you're going to hate your life, and then you die. Have a nice day.
I've heard that without the have a nice day part. Yeah.
Yes. Well, at the moment it happens, it doesn't matter if somebody says it, and it's kind of
true enough,
because you're not there to hear it. And so we begin to look at knowledge in a different way. And the Sanskrit even has a different word for it. It's jnana, Jnana. It's regarded as one of the paths of yoga. It's the path of knowledge, the path of true knowledge. So this a long-winded way of getting to the point of it, and that is, how do you know yourself when you can't stand apart from yourself and study yourself like you're some kind of an object?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Everything else, like in the universe, I can do that. I can take it apart, I can weigh it, I can measure it, I can categorize it, I can associate it, I can compare it to other things, I can do all sorts of. With everything else in the universe, I can't do that to me. So somebody else might do that and then tell me, okay, this is what you are, but then that's secondary information. It's like it's
Yeah.
hearsay.
Yes.
I, an interesting little exercise anybody can do is just if I ask you to picture yourself, right? Just bring up in your mind a picture of yourself. And everybody will bring up some kind of a picture of them, their face, depending maybe 5 feet away, maybe a little bit more close up, but usually it's just mostly the face and a little bit of the body, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then I make a very interesting observation. That image, when I said picture yourself, you brought up this picture, but that picture looking at your face, you have never seen. Never in your entire life. Pictures, a photograph, a video, an image in the mirror, but directly. You've never seen the face you believe is you. What do you look like from a distance of 0? That is, bring it back here, turn around again.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you look like from here, where you can't see yourself?
Okay. Yeah.
And suddenly you realize that objective knowledge, the scientific method, is of absolutely no use to you in knowing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the Sanskrit word for Advaita Vedanta means the end of knowledge. And that's what it's referring to, not ignorance, but external knowledge is not relevant on the spiritual path.
Right. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so now but we're so used to thinking of ourselves in those terms. And because we think of those things in those terms, and I'm about to tie this all together, right? We end up experiencing the world through this perception. And this perception is well, let me say what the powers actually are. First being the focus of attention, where your attention goes,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because the cognitive part can only take in so much, it has to kind of filter a lot of stuff out and decide where attention is going to go.
Yeah.
Right. And there's criteria by which that. So wherever your attention goes, and everybody's had that experience of you get so into something, somebody can talk to you and you don't hear them. Right. You become so absorbed in something, you can forget to eat. Right.
Yes.
In a lot of times, very positively, the person playing improvisational music, the sports figure who's in the zone, they're in that place. They don't hear the crowd. They can be in a stadium with 60,000 people. They don't hear those 60,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
They are so here. They are so focused that it's just that all of this has been completely filtered out. As far as they're concerned, it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
This is all there is. Me and that ball.
Right.
That's the entire world. That's the power of attention. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
And you can see the predicament we're in when we're in a world like this, where everything is trying to grab a hold of your attention.
Yes.
Endless distractions and stuff, because everybody wants your mind share. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so we've which is a problem. We can get to that later. So notice that the first thing is that focus of attention. Now, the next question is, well, then what is it that dictates where that focus of attention goes? Because that's going to determine the entirety of your experience. That focus, there's nothing outside of it. So for all intents and purposes, that is your quote unquote reality.
Yeah.
Me and that ball, no crowd. That's reality. Right? That's your experience. Now, it isn't reality. Reality would have to be the sum total: the crowd, the ball, the wind, and everything. But you're not. You're completely oblivious to all of that. Right. So, what dictates that attention then? Because clearly, my entire experience is that attention. Well, what dictates that attention is belief. What you believe to be true. It is our beliefs that determine what gets filtered out and what gets amplified. What we invest our attention into and what we don't. Because obviously we can't invest it in everything, right?
Right.
We've got almost 60 billion bits that have to be filtered out. Somehow they've got to get filtered out. The mechanism by which they're filtered out is primarily simply the basic mechanism, the basic functioning of the nervous system to stay safe, look for some, get fed, get a mate, right? Basic, very basic stuff. Advertisers know that too, which is why the number one theme in advertising, the two number one themes in advertising are sex and death, because it always cuts through. They know that that's so fundamental in the nervous system that they will immediately get mind share. It's horribly manipulative, but that's the way it works.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, it is.
They've got us pegged.
That's a nice way of putting it. They've got us pegged.
Yeah. So our beliefs are going to determine what gets filtered out and what isn't.
Right.
I remember just to kind of drive this home, and people can try this for themselves. I'd heard that we get something like 3,000, 4,000 commercial messages a day.
Oh, wow.
Delivered to us.
Okay.
During the waking hours, right? I mean, it's not even 24 hours. And I said, okay, I want to put that to the test. And I consciously decided that I was going to open up my perception so that I could see every commercial message that was being sent to me. Now, remember, the nervous system is picking it up. It's just not all of it's getting to the cognitive part. So I said, okay, I want to be cognizant of it. Well, I lived in New York City at the time, and yet there's a lot of concentration there. It's a good place to put in the test.
Sure.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Right. And so I had to walk 3 blocks to this little store that I went to for groceries. The kind of the longer blocks, but it's 3 blocks, right? Mm-hmm. And I was in the store when I thought I'd heard that, and I was in the store. I got all my stuff, and I was like, I'm going to try this out. I'm going to see what happens. And I consciously started looking and wanting to see all the commercial messages. By the time I had gotten home, 3 blocks, I'd counted 100 of them.
Yeah.
And I went, what? As the numbers kept piling up, I'm going, there's another. Oh my God, there's another. All I done was just given my nervous system permission to let the information in, and so okay, and it let it in.
Yeah.
And they've bumped into this kind of thing in the law of attraction and all that. The reticular activating system and stuff like that. You're not going to see opportunities and that sort of stuff, which is fine, but there's a whole lot more to it than that.
Sure.
And so it is what you believe to be true that determines where your attention goes, which determines your entire experience. You cannot experience anything that is outside of your beliefs.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, whoa. Yeah. It's really stunning.
It is.
It's stunning to realize that your belief is actually shaping what you call reality. Mm-hmm. That's your second power of creation, right? Because it's driving the focus of attention. Because the focus of attention is like a dog. It goes wherever you tell it, right? It's like the pointer, right? It just points, right?
Sure, yes.
Something has to tell it to do it. It's not self-motivated. But guess what? Beliefs aren't self-motivated anyway. All of them are installed in us in the beginning.
Yeah.
Later on, we can exercise a little bit of choice, but not until some kind of conscious awakening takes place do we actually have the power to go deeper. And I'll get to that in a second. Mm-hmm. That gets to the third amazing power of creation, which is the one belief that is the mother of all beliefs. And that is identity. Uh-huh. Who you believe yourself to be. I mean, think about that. If our beliefs about everything determine our attention, what is the most powerful belief of all? What is it that I live by every day and live as every day? It's what I believe myself to be. It's every thought I have that has the word I in it. And That's every thought, by the way.
Yes, it is. I was just going to say that's a lot of thoughts.
That's all of them. Sometimes it's not directly I, but without I, there's no you. There's no he, she, or it. That's why they call it first person. Everything is in reference to that I.
Yeah.
Every thought you have, for the most part, right? If it's not direct, it is indirect, is the thought of I, which is, by the way, the construct of the ego, the collection of thoughts that are about the I. So whatever I believe to be true about me will collect around it all sorts of beliefs about the world that are congruent with that idea about me.
Yeah.
And so I don't see the world as it is. I see the world as I am. I can't remember who actually said that originally, but it's very, very true. Maybe it was Maya Angelou, but I'm not 100% sure. But it's true. Since the beliefs inform attention, and all the beliefs conform to that essential belief, identity is what's dictating the entire thing. Which means all I see around me is me.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. All I see around me is me. Hi, how am I? Fine, thank me. And me?
Well, I'm well.
I'm well.
Thank
and
me.
Me? It's true. And we need to ponder this, because this is the shape of our perception. We don't see the world as it is. We only see ourselves. Now,
Yeah.
and I'm going to get now to the fourth power because identity being a construct of the mind as well, being a belief, you didn't create that either. That was culturally imposed.
Yeah.
Came from your raising, your conditioning. All of this stuff is conditioning. All of it is the nervous system.
Right.
And were it not for one more thing, you would be nothing but a robot. You would live out your conditioning, die, have a nice day, right? First life is very hard, and then you die. That would be it.
Things we've been told without the have a nice day.
Without the have a nice day. Yeah. But, and there's plenty of people who believe that, behaviorists and, the strict materialists.
Sure.
That's the model they live by. But we have another power, and I call it the superpower, because the identity, belief, and attention are incapable of assessing the truth or falsity of what they believe. They cannot evaluate. They cannot discern. They are completely a slave to the conditioning.
Right.
This is good. This is bad. Why? Well, because it is. You can't question it, right? And even if there is some questioning, it's really just a shift in the programming. It's unless there's this additional thing that gets brought to the party, and that additional thing is discrimination, the capacity to tell.
Yeah.
And we all have that capacity. We don't really know how to use it. We don't exercise it. We're not really aware of it. We don't recognize how important it is, because we think the beliefs we have are true.
Right.
And so we've not even woken up enough to question whether or not they are true. But we all have the capacity to discriminate. You don't have to teach somebody whether they're in love or not. You just know.
Yeah.
You know, oh, let's see, let me get the checklist out and see. And, from the very first time you experience it in your life, you know what it is.
Oh, yeah.
You know. You know that a garbage dump is ugly and a sunset is beautiful. Now, you could be conditioned to prefer the garbage dump to the sunset.
Right.
But anybody who sees it knows that, no, that's ugly, that's beautiful, and that's not an opinion. That's not a cultural conditioning.
Yeah.
You can listen to Justin Bieber or you can listen to Beethoven.
Yes.
Which one's better? People can argue which one they'd rather listen to,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm sorry, 300 years from now, they're not going to be listening to Justin Bieber. But Bieber, I always say Bieber, but we will be listening to
Oh,
Beethoven
no,
300 years from now, just like
no
we
question.
have for the last 300 years.
Oh, yeah.
There's a qualitative difference
Mm-hmm.
that is not a matter of opinion.
Sure. Yeah.
That's discrimination. In Buddhism, they call it the Buddha eye.
Mm-hmm.
It's what
Right.
can tell the difference in quality between things. And that's the superpower that lets you take over and completely retrain the system out of mere belief, out of the sense of identity, which is not as a mental construct, and completely redirect attention to the point where it can take in way more and process way more than those 60 bits.
Right.
So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Well, not a nutshell. It took me a long time to say it, but but I think I think it has enough. I like this show because I can go into depth in it. I don't have to make
Absolutely.
I don't have to make the Cliff Notes version of it.
No. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing is that we're not constrained by time.
No.
There are no commercial breaks to inundate you with ads, but you might want to listen to this show. So we'll throw in a plug there.
Yeah.
Because it's fun.
We don't. I don't have to be forced into a 30-second sound bite. I'm sorry. You can't realize the nature of reality in a 30-second sound bite.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And then it's this fourth power, this superpower of discrimination, the discriminating awareness that allows a person to go and retrain the system, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what empowers you. Without that, you're flying blind.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be substituting one belief for another, and it might be a better belief. It may be a more functional belief, but it's just another belief, right? I mean, you're just basically changing the ingredients, but the soup's going to end up being the same. What we want is the truth. We want reality. We want, what am I really?
Yeah.
Not just another belief that's going to, fall apart, right? Even if it's very functional now. There were all sorts of beliefs about, the right way to make a lot of money 20 years ago. Well, none of them work now.
That's true.
So, yeah, okay. So you knew at the time, right? But beliefs like that, they will always shift. And what we want, what every heart in every human being is crying out for, is a contentment, a happiness, and a sense of peace and stability that doesn't change.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That isn't a cheat.
Yeah.
That isn't one one minute and gone the next. And the only place you're going to find that is in the only thing that doesn't change, which is truth.
Mm-hmm.
The reality, not my perception of the reality, which is going to constantly change, but in the actual reality of which I am perceiving just a fraction of.
Mm-hmm. And then one uses the discriminating awareness to
the discriminating awareness is the reality. It is reality communicating to you.
Aha. Yes.
It is your connection to the reality that knows what reality is and isn't the least bit concerned with the perception. It knows what the whole picture is.
Mm-hmm.
That's the innate sense that can tell the difference between, Justin Bieber and Beethoven. Because it knows for real. And that wisdom is inside of you. And that's what discrimination is actually pointing at. It's the wisdom that knows what the truth is, who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we find, and where else are you going to find peace?
Yeah. Well, you might find something in the world, but it won't last.
It won't last. And everybody, everybody has had that experience.
Mm-hmm.
But unless you've encountered some kind of spiritual teaching that shows you what does last, you have no choice but to just strive in the world to collect what you can, get as much stability as you can. That's why people try to amass fortunes of money, because they think that's going to do it. Or,
Sure.
they want to, let's work on your relationship, and all of that stuff is good, right? But you can't hold on to it. I mean, studies have been done even on billionaires. They're not happy. They don't feel stable. They're worried they're going to lose their money. It's like, well, how much do you need? Well, from the point of view of the mind, there's no limit on how much you'll need. I think I told the story. I'm not sure I told it on this story. That Kurt Vonnegut and Joseph Heller. Joseph Heller wrote Catcher in the Rye.
Right.
Kurt Vonnegut wrote all sorts of science fiction novels.
Sure.
They were both at a party at this billionaire's house in the Hamptons, right? And the Hamptons is this place out on Long Island where there are only billionaires, right? That's
Yeah.
You're not even allowed past the city line unless you're a
Yeah.
billionaire. And they were having a conversation, and Kurt Vonnegut says to Joseph Heller, he says, this guy makes more in a day than you have in the entire life cycle of Catch-22. And Heller responds, yeah, but I have something he'll never have. Vonnegut says, what's that? He says, enough.
Ah, yes. There you go. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's very powerful.
Where is the point at which I have enough?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're relying on the accumulation of stuff to give you that sense, you'll never have enough. Literally, you'll never have enough. Since the COVID epidemic, we have seen the largest upward transfer of wealth in the history of the world. Trillions of dollars. The average people, you and I, the total value, we've lost 32.7 trillion dollars in value.
Wow.
The upper 1% has increased $39.2 trillion. It all went from us to them. Now, how much do you need?
That's a good question.
I once said, the human body has approximately 50 to 100 trillion cells.
Okay.
Try to give $1 trillion, right? I try to give somebody an idea. Okay, 100 trillion cells, right? That's a huge number. I mean, how do you even begin to fathom what that number is? So I say, okay, you can spend $1 an hour, $1 a second. I'm sorry, $1 a second. That's $60 a minute, $3,600 every hour, right? 24 hours a day, no days off. You're just spending $1 a second. How long will it take you to spend $100 trillion?
I have no idea.
3.2 million years.
Oh, well.
Longer than humans have been human.
Mm-hmm.
So if you started, when the caveman had a thought, you wouldn't be done yet. It's inconceivable the amount that is, and yet I want more. We have to understand this is the nature of the egoic mind.
Mm-hmm.
This is the human condition that we have to come to terms with, and if you cannot discriminate quality, right, from quantity, which they can't, then this is the predicament you're going to find yourself in.
Right.
And it's not insignificant, right? I mean, it is this drive for profits that's destroying the climate.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And that's the only thing that is. And all the governments that are kowtowing to it that really serve those interests. It is the complete absence of the discriminating wisdom that would know perfectly well that this is insane. Native Americans regarded somebody who wanted more than they needed, which is greed. They regarded it as an insanity. They were brought to the shaman because they were ill.
Sure. Yeah.
And in our culture, we reward them.
Oh.
They're the heroes.
Mm-hmm.
We have these guys on Shark Tank that everybody looks up to.
Right.
The book Think and Grow Rich, which was one of the most horrible books ever written. I know I've said that to many people, and I go, "What?" I mean, it's revered.
Sure. Right. It is. Yeah.
It's revered. It's up there with the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it was, what was it? It's a Vanity Fair. Dale Carnegie hired this guy to go out to all of his buddies and tell everybody how great they were.
Mm.
These are the guys that destroyed people's lives. They ruined industries. They even organized a military coup against the United States government because they hated what Franklin Roosevelt was doing. That's a fact. They tried to convince, his name is General Smedley Butler. He's only one of 2 people in the history of the country who received a Congressional Medal of Honor twice.
Okay.
They contacted him to fund him to raise an army of $500,000 to overthrow the government.
Mm.
And they're in the book as the icons, the heroes, right? Because they wrote the fucking book.
So if you write it, then you get to paint yourself as the hero, yeah?
I'm the hero, yeah, of course.
Yes.
All the wonderful things I do and the virtues of the system. And, the only reason you're not living like I am is because, well, basically I'm better than you.
Yeah.
Because you didn't try hard enough.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it sucks. Have a nice day.
Yeah, have a nice day. Yes. Well, and if all we're looking at is ourselves anyway, then we absolutely do get to be the hero, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always the hero in my own dreams.
Mm. Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah. It's really interesting. And I don't know, listeners, if you're aware of any of this historical information. I was not aware of some of this. The coup, I was not aware of.
Yeah. He wrote about it. Yeah, after he got out of the military, he realized his entire military career was spent stealing resources from other countries for the benefit of corporations.
Well.
And this is the 20s and the 30s, right? Mm-hmm. This isn't even, this has been going on for a very long time. Right. He was just disgusted with actually who he was because he didn't know it at the time. He thought he was serving democracy and all of that. But in fact, he was just raping and pillaging like every other conquering country before him. It's when you, and this is available, right? You're not going to hear it on any of the news channels, any of them, right? You have to dig to find this stuff, but it's there. It's there to be found, so that we can really get a picture of what this was like. It was Rockefeller, who's one of the guys in the book, right? Who got rid of holistic medicine because the pharmaceuticals were where the money was.
That's where the money is.
He destroyed hemp. Thomas Edison destroyed Tesla, right? Because Tesla wasn't a businessman. He wasn't the marketing guy. He wasn't with political clout. So he stole his ideas. It was finally, I think, in the early 2000s where Tesla was finally given credit for the radio. The credit had been given to Marconi, this Italian guy, when in fact it had been Tesla. And then Tesla who was pissed off. He doesn't. He's what a character, but he had none of the political savvy or charm that an Edison did. Mm-hmm. And so his response after they had stolen credit for AM radio, right, the first radio, is he went and invented FM radio. So now you have high fidelity again, thanks to Tesla. But does anybody know that? No, because he wasn't the political guy. He wasn't doing it for the money, right? And the rest of it was driven by this greed. But you can see how inflated it can become. It's a value system that values profit over everything else. It gets completely entrenched in the education system, in all of the institutions of government and the economics. There's a wonderful teacher, Professor Richard Wolff, Dr. Richard Wolff. He's an economist. He said, I've got all the pedigrees. I went to all the best schools. Undergraduate at Harvard. I did my master's degree at Stanford. I did my doctorate at Yale, all in economics. He says, my entire education, I was not given one thing to read that was critical of capitalism.
Mm.
So
Okay.
I had to dig that out later for myself. And he used the example. It says,
Yeah.
if you want to study a family dynamic, and there's the parents and two children, do you just talk to one of the children? Two children. One thinks this is the greatest family in the world. The other thinks this is horrible. It sucks. My life is a mess. Do you just talk to the one? Or do you talk to both of them?
Mm. Well, I would want to speak to both.
Yeah. There has to be a dialogue of self-criticism or you don't grow.
Yeah, for sure.
And so within the context of our four powers, without that, there's no discrimination being applied.
Right.
And so you're stuck in an identity, you're stuck in a belief, you're stuck in an attention, even when it's dysfunctional and it's not working, as we're seeing, right? We had a horrible response to the COVID epidemic because it wasn't profitable to be prepared for it. Simple as that. It's not profitable for a company to stockpile something in case something happens.
Right. Yeah.
And have to replenish it and keep it fresh and all of that.
Sure.
It's not profitable, so they don't do it. And if the government doesn't step in and do it, right, well, it doesn't get done, and you experience what we experienced. It didn't have to be this bad.
Right. Yeah.
We knew it was coming.
It didn't. Yeah.
We knew it was coming. These things do happen periodically,
Sure.
every 20, 30 years. So, I mean, it wasn't as if we weren't forewarned, right?
Right.
And we know where they start. They almost all start in animal agriculture.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, it's not hard to monitor these things, right? Another reason I'm a vegan.
Yeah. Okay.
But even if you don't have to become a vegan to know, okay, this is one of the natural consequences of these things. So let's be smart. Let's be careful. That's not profitable, and that's an indication of a complete absence of this power of discrimination, this ability to discern what is truly valuable, what really matters.
Yes.
And what really matters it's not an opinion. It's a perceived truth.
Right.
And this is the wisdom we all have access to.
Yeah.
And everybody's feeling it. Everybody's feeling, what's wrong? Something's wrong.
Right.
I mean, it's frightening to confront what might actually be wrong because we've been living with it and thinking it's, praising things like Think and Grow Rich, think it's the greatest thing of all time, when it's the very thing that's been killing us. It's, there's a story in the Bible of, it's very, very telling, after Moses talks to God, right, standing by the burning bush, right, which is a great story in of itself. And in fact, that word burning means mental turmoil. It's a metaphor for this discomfort we're all feeling.
Right. Yes.
And Moses is standing there with his shepherd's staff, and God says, throw down your staff. And he throws down the staff, and it turns into a snake. It's terrifying, right?
A little weird, yeah.
And starts, and God says, no, come back, pick it up. It's, what? Pick it up. And he picks it up and turns into a staff again. It's a metaphor. The very things we're relying on are a snake that are biting us. It's a poisonous snake that's biting us. We're leaning on it, and we're afraid to let go of it because we think it's supporting us. This is one of the delusions that we all get stuck in. And that's why some of these spiritual stories and mythologies, and it is a totally mythical story. There was no such person ever. Or he's one of 1,000 different versions of it, right? Because that whole story of being taken for the water and, there's countless number of cultures.
A lot of them, right?
Yeah. So, but it's a universal story because this is what it's pointing to. It's a story that rises out of that discriminating wisdom that's trying to point you in any way it can back towards that which is actually true, which is what the voice in the midst of that discontent is, the voice of truth.
Yes.
And the bush is in you.
Yeah. Yeah. And what we see are, as we've talked about, are countless, countless examples of the absence or willful neglect of discriminating awareness in the world. And
Yeah, willful. I like that you use that word. It is willful because it's just completely driven by the ignorance. It's the
mhm,
fear. I don't want to throw down that staff. I mean, to actually have to question that the whole this whole thing that we've created is the thing that's killing us is a very difficult thing to face. You know, you get to a point in your life and you've built this structure and everything, and
mhm,
all of a sudden you
yeah,
realize,
yeah.
oh my God, I hate my life. What do I do now?
Mhm.
And sometimes people are so invested in it. How do you get out of it? How do you get out of life? You've built according to this model. You get to a certain point. You got mortgage and kids and responsibilities, and you hate your life. You hate your job. You hate your boss. You're completely out of fish out of water. And and
Yeah.
and what do? You either listen to that voice and you find some way to extricate it from you, or you just suppress it. You pretend it isn't there, and then you drink a lot, or you cheat on your wife, or
Yeah. Yeah.
anything to get a little bit of relief, right? To
Mhm.
feel like you're yourself again. And sometimes I can express it kind of darkly, but I mean that's what's behind all
Mhm.
of
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
eruptions. It's behind the male crisis, right? What do they call it? I forgot what it's called. That midlife crisis.
Sure.
Which, by the way, Native Americans don't have that. There's so many cultures that don't have a midlife crisis.
Mm.
They don't have them in India. They don't have a midlife crisis. Right? I mean, it's all accounted for, right? There's a point at which, okay, I've done my householder duty now. Now I'm on to my next phase of life, and all of that is understood,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
But here it's like I'm forever chasing this one materialistic ideal, and then when it doesn't deliver, when it sucks me dry and it just wants to give me a gold watch and send me home, I'm going, what the hell? This is it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
one of the bright sides of our collapsing times is that young kids are getting that already.
Yes.
They're
Yeah.
going, why do I participate in this?
Hmm.
What are you offering me? Oh, yeah, wealth and all this kind of stuff. What are you kidding? You destroy. They know it.
Right. Mhm.
They know it's a lie. The
Yes.
American dream, which everybody else bought, hook, line, and sinker, right?
Yeah.
They
Oh
go,
yeah.
what
Yeah.
American dream? It's racist. It's cruel. It's sexist. It's unfair. It's unequal. It's corrupt. Tell me exactly what it is I'm supposed to sign up for here.
Yes. And they're questioning this in mass.
In mass.
Hmm.
And it's incredibly beautiful to see. Incredibly beautiful to see.
Yeah.
I was sitting in San Francisco, having a beer at a Whole Foods. They have bars
Sure. Yes.
in
I've seen them.
California, in
Uh-huh. Oh yeah.
California.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was living there a little bit, like 4 or 5 years ago, um, after I came back from Germany, and a bunch of young kids came in, early 20s, right? And I overheard them. They had all been out canvassing, trying to get people registered to vote, and they were all supporting Bernie Sanders in
Okay.
2016.
Sure.
And I couldn't help but, just kind of say hello, and
Hmm.
because I was just so impressed with their passion, their enthusiasm, wisdom beyond their years. They were seeing things that they were seeing through the corruption of the system. I mean, they were like worshiping my feet. They found out I was at the 1968 Democratic Convention, right? I was,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
back in the day, all of that, and it was just so refreshing to sit and talk with all of them. And they said, "Are you registered to vote?" I said, "Well, I'm only here for a short period of time." And they said, "Doesn't matter. We'll get you down to the courthouse." I mean, they were like, "Come on, we'll take you down. We get you registered right now. You can vote before you leave."
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah.
I said it was so heartening to see, but at the same time, I also saw the incredible disappointment when the Democratic Party literally lied and screwed and cheated, so that the corporate warmonger got the nomination,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And then was like upset that everybody didn't want to vote for her. One of the most unpleasant people in the world, one of the most unliked people in the
In the
world,
world. Yeah.
right? Which they put up there instead of the most popular politician in the country,
Yeah.
a guaranteed win.
Oh, it would
Right?
have been. It would have been.
It would have been a guaranteed
Yeah.
win.
Oh, yeah.
But they were told very clearly by their big donors, the multinationals and the like, Bernie Sanders gets the nomination, you get no money. That was the end of that. Twice.
Yes. And all of these
twice.
statements, by the way, for the listeners, this is discriminating awareness. We just know it's the difference between Justin Bieber and Beethoven here.
Yeah.
Just say it.
Just saying. You just, and people just didn't buy her. They didn't buy the whole thing. They didn't buy that line, right? They weren't, they could tell, right? It was out of the frying pan into the fire with
Sure.
with Trump, but I struggled over that. I didn't want to vote for it. It's the first time ever I didn't vote. I
Oh, is that right?
Vote. First time ever, and I've been voting, since I was 18.
Sure.
Right, which would have been what 19. I voted in the election for the 1970 presidency. First time, right? First time I've ever missed an election. I said, who do I vote for? This guy's a crook, right? I lived in New York when he and Giuliani were trying to get anybody without money out of the city to turn it into a playground for the rich. I saw what they did. And everybody knew it was corrupt. Anybody who lived in New York at that time knew who Trump was. They knew the money is coming from the Russian mafia.
Okay. Yeah.
It was not news, right? And Giuliani has been one of the. I even knew somebody who worked for him, who did event management for Gracie Mansion.
Okay.
Just a horrible human being.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I went, well, who do I vote for? First time I just said, I can't vote.
Wild. Okay.
I can't do it. And said, yeah, well, you're gonna give him to Trump. And yes, he's a repulsive character, and she's a warmonger. Please give me a choice.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're not alone. So many millions of people felt exactly the same way.
Yeah, exactly so. And then put us through 4 years of hell. So maybe I was wrong. Maybe, but both of them ultimately represent the same value system.
Right. They do.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a total cretin, right? Vomited up, out of the worst, dredges of our culture. But he stands on the same value system that she does.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of similarities.
Yeah. And it is that underlying value system. And I can speak so bluntly about it because I've got nothing against any of them personally. Because I know what it is they have bought a particular way of thinking. They've bought into a particular value system.
Right.
And they're not willing to question it.
Yeah. And real wisdom is questioning.
Oh my God.
Everything. Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. Literally.
So, Aristotle, who is regarded as the wisest man, said, I know nothing. That's why I'm the wisest man. I don't leave anything. Don't assume anything. The moment you assume it and believe it, remember, it shapes your perception, it shapes where your attention goes, and then it seems to be self-fulfilling.
Yes.
It then seems, well, it's true. Look, I'm seeing it, not realizing that you are creating what you're seeing,
Mhm.
right? Your beliefs are creating it, not the other way around.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just this is so interesting for someone that's approaching this material in this way for the first time to have countless examples of current and real world geopolitical examples of a lack of discriminating awareness. So, this is what happens when you don't choose to exercise this. So, when you do, what happens then?
Well, at first, it's extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah, evil laughter. Yeah, if you don't know, you
I
will
do.
know. Mm.
I do have to warn you. Yes, this
Yeah,
is not the path of rainbows and unicorns.
uh, that's
This
for
is
sure.
not this is not a cappuccino awakening, as we as we've mentioned before.
That's for sure. Yeah.
No soy.
Oh
It
no.
is.
All right.
It is. You come face to face with the things that have made your life miserable, but you've become so dependent on them. You recognize you don't want to let go of your own misery.
Mhm.
In India, they have monkey traps. The way they trap a monkey is
Okay.
it's a jar. It's kind of like a big heavy jar, right? With a small opening in it, and the monkey can and they drop into the jar a banana,
Okay.
and the monkey goes over, smells the banana, reaches in for the banana, picks it up, but the mouth of the jar is wide enough they can get their hand in. But when they are holding the banana in their hand with a fist, they can't get it out.
Yeah.
The only way they can get their hand out is they have to let go of the banana,
Yeah.
which they won't do.
Yeah. Yes.
And they easily go over and scoop them all up and do whatever it is they do to monkeys. Most of the time, they just move them somewhere else because they become so annoying in the
Oh,
city.
okay. All right. Yeah.
It's not like it's not like they eat them or something like that. It's not that bad, and it's a humane way to capture them, obviously.
It sure is.
Uh,
Mhm.
but this is us. We're monkeys with our hand on the banana, thinking that the world's got to change when in fact it's you.
Yeah.
It's your assumptions, it's your beliefs, it's your attention, it's all of that, right? Unquestioned, and you got to let go of the banana. Right?
Mhm.
Otherwise, your hand's going to be stuck. You're going to be dragging that jar around,
Right. Or someone's going to come scoop you up.
and somebody's going to come scoop you up. Yep.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes. Well, and now if someone were to want to go deep with this material, with the four amazing powers, you've got a course, an event coming up. Tell us a little bit about this and how people can access this material.
Yeah. I, as I was saying in the beginning, I've been always looking for ways to drive this message home,
Mhm.
and to with enough depth so that the people who are willing to investigate with some intellectual integrity and curiosity
Mhm.
have enough to have some real meat on the bone to chew on. And so, looking at this nature of perception and how it can so easily be distorted into illusions and delusions, I wanted to break it down.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
and the way I found to break it down is by looking at the various components of it. Which, by the way, the first three, attention, belief, and identity, I learned from my teacher, Muji.
All
And he
right.
pointed that out. And I
Mm.
said, "My God, there it is."
Yeah. Beautiful.
it's
Yeah.
so it's so it's so utterly clear. And then I added the fourth one of discrimination,
Okay.
which is he in inquiry. He didn't put that name on it, but that's what he does, is constantly bringing your attention back to these assumptions, right?
Yes. Yes.
To discriminate what's actually true. And so I wanted to just kind of formalize it into a methodical thing that somebody could go through.
Okay.
And so I created first an introductory thing, which is uh, about 90 minutes. It kind of
Mhm.
goes through it, and I'm just talking about it, right?
Right.
Uh, and And it starts with a video called How God Creates, which is the actual nature of creation. How
Yeah.
does
Yeah.
creation actually happen? How does
Hmm.
something come into my experience? And it is a wondrous, mysterious, and mystical thing,
Yeah.
right? To embrace. To realize that you're not actually the creator, but you're participating. And how creation appears will depend completely on your perception
Hmm.
of it.
Hmm.
So in a sense, you are, and at the same time, you're not. So trying to really kind of nail down that subtlety and with enough depth that it kind of shifts people's perception, brings them out of the habitual way we think about things. I then put together it's about 2.5 hours long. It follows the same sequence with a bunch of other exercises and stuff to go along with it, which is a real full presentation with graphics and the
Sure.
the whole deal. Um, and that and so it's around almost 4 hours worth of just pre-recorded material. And then on April 22nd, I'll be doing a live workshop, and I'm really hoping people will sign up early
Yes.
so they can go through that material, so I can make the workshop a masterclass.
Hmm.
Right? If everybody's brand new to it, well, then I have to kind of teach more of the basics. But the more
Sure.
you have under your belt before you even show up, the more in depth we can go into, because, and it takes, oh, excuse me, it takes that kind of uh, constant reminding, constant reprogramming, because we have been so conditioned into this way of thinking that it just doesn't disappear overnight.
Yeah.
It just doesn't go away. It takes a concerted effort, which is why I
Hmm.
say when you first look at the magnitude of it, you're going to go, oh my God, can I go back to sleep now? Can I take that blue pill? I changed my mind, right? Of course,
Yes.
it's too late. If the serum's been injected. Um,
Yeah.
and so now, just kind of, just have to go for it. So I wanted to do it in such a way that it could be just go back to it and back to it and back to it and back
Ah,
to it, so
yes.
that it sinks in deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, until finally it really does completely unseat all of those presuppositions and assumptions that have been just destroying your life,
Mm.
been destroying your happiness, and to
Yes.
show you where happiness really lies,
Mm.
and what's the right relationship between you and reality, you and creation. Not as the creator, as I'm making something happen, because the creation doesn't even happen as an act of will. There's no super being sitting up there going, I think I'll make a tree.
I don't like that tree. I'm going to burn it down.
I'm going to burn it down. Oh, I did a really bad job on that. Okay, we're going to destroy the earth, except for this drunk old guy, and then I'm going to have him have sex with his daughter so he can have some more children.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, you know,
So we're going to flood it out, but he's going
we're,
to he's going to be okay,
he'll be
and
all
we're going to
right.
wipe everybody else. Really didn't like what I did that first job. Bring in the bulldozers.
Mm.
It's not that kind of a deal.
No.
It's this. It's totally mysterious. It's the word God for the West is the wrong way. We talked about that in a
Did. Yes.
previous show. It's the infinite intelligence that exists in all places and is immanent in all things. So God has a thought that is creation. It's
Mhm.
not, I think I'll make something and then he makes it, or she,
Yeah.
which is probably more accurate. The very thought itself is creation.
Hmm.
And but when a thought appears or a creative moment appears, your attention to it, your perception of it, your beliefs about it will determine whether it's going to show up in its presence or its absence.
Right.
Right? It's
Yes.
there, right? But am I going to get a hole that's shaped like a triangle, or am I going to get a triangle?
Hmm.
Both triangles, but one's an absence and one's a presence.
Yeah.
And this is completely the way in which we experience it. And that's totally, totally our perception, which is driven by these four powers.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
that final power brings you into into relationship with the Tao. This is what the Tao is,
Yeah.
the way things
Right.
actually are.
Hmm.
And you find you don't have to make things happen, they're already happening.
Yeah. And they just happen by themselves.
And they just happen. And when all the stories are gone and all these beliefs are gone, you find it's utterly benevolent, it's utterly harmonious, it's incredibly beautiful and mysterious, and so overwhelmingly wonderful that you can barely stand it.
Hmm. Yes. Hmm.
And you
Yeah.
wonder, why in the world did I make this other nightmare?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and we've only scratched the surface on this show with some of the nightmare, but if you're listening along, you get the point.
You get the point.
You get the
Yeah.
point. Yeah,
It's a universal nightmare. That's they refer to it as samsara
yeah,
in the Sanskrit. It's this
sure.
universal illusion,
Hmm.
right? That
It
has
is
been created in the mind that we've all been infected by, which is why we all seem to be having the same illusion.
right. Yes, yeah, which means we have the same celebrity politicians worldwide, and
Yeah,
we all know what's going on.
they all look
All of
this.
it.
They all look the same. It's creepy.
Yeah, yeah.
Little suits and stuff going. It's like, oh my.
It's yeah.
Uh,
Well, happily for the listener, GP and I are not in a suit today. So yeah, I know you don't have a visual on us, but we're not in three-piece suits.
no,
Yeah, there's no Armani on us today. Not today,
no,
guys.
and I'm
Yeah.
not trying
So,
to sell you an insurance policy.
oh, good, good. Yeah, good.
Or tell you invest in Bitcoin. Yeah.
I gotcha. Well, and so for the listener, this is a really wonderful collection of teachings by GP. And GP, I've been through the 90 minutes of the introduction and seen the videos, and I love the explanations. This is really something that someone can get into and begin to practice and integrate into their
Yeah.
experience. And that's the point. So if you're out there and you're interested, you can find more details at GP's website, gpwalsh.com. And again, the live class, the live workshop, which we'd love to have turned into a master class, is on April the 22nd. So gpwalsh.com for more information. The more of the pre-recorded information that you can get through prior to the live event, the better. The better your understanding, the better your takeaway is going to be.
And all of that and all that material is there forever. I mean, it's not like you got to rush through it. It's I'm not taking it down. I'm just
Oh,
going to
yeah,
add a
good.
recording of the live workshop to it, and it's there for perpetuity. So, because it isn't the kind of thing you're just going to grasp in one sitting. It's you got to keep going back to it because
Sure.
you're undoing, decades of conditioning, if not lifetimes of
Yeah.
conditioning,
Yeah.
right? And that's not the good news. Is that you've got the truth on your side. You actually are the self. You are that inherent wisdom.
Mhm.
And so you do have the upper hand.
This is good. Yes.
So this is a really good thing. So, it could have taken 1,000 lifetimes to get to this point. It doesn't take 1,000 lifetimes to undo it. It can be done in one.
Mhm. Yeah, that's the beauty of all of this is it can be done in one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and if this is something that appeals to you, check this out. It's called The Four Amazing Powers of Creation on gpwalsh.com. So, GP, this has been wonderful. We've talked about so many things, and I
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Thomas.
This has been executive contributor and master spiritual teacher GP Walsh on Decide to Transform. And again, for more information about the four amazing powers of creation, visit gpwalsh.com. And we will see all of you here again next time. Thanks for joining us.